For those of you who don't know, my name is Dan Ashurst, and I'm the executive director of Fair Vote Illinois. Fair Vote Illinois is a grassroots nonprofit organization that advocates exclusively for ranked choice voting. A quick agenda for today's call. We'll start with a quick introduction to ranked choice voting for those who are unfamiliar. We'll talk about some of the present day context of RCV as well as its history in Illinois. And the main event tonight will be the unveiling of our brand new organizational strategy for ranked choice voting through the year 2032. And finally, we'll have some Q&A as well as some additional action items that you can take right now for ranked choice voting. For many of you joining us on the call today, this is your first time engaging with us. Thank you very much for being here and welcome to the ranked choice voting movement. I'd like to share a quick 2-minute animated video narrated by the founder of Fair Vote Illinois, Andrew Silva, that we made to introduce you to why we focus so much on this specific issue. Why do we think that this, of all things, is such a critical reform that we would create an entire organization dedicated to just this when there's so many other issues going on in the country? Let's watch.
This talk is really about choice. We want democracy around the world. We want everyone to have a choice in how they're governed. Unfortunately, in some countries, there is no voting. You are told who's in charge, whether you like them or not, and you're stuck with it. You essentially have one choice. Luckily, we live in the United States. We have a flourishing democracy, and we get two choices. Two choices. We act like this is normal. And why is this? It is because we use plurality voting. So the most votes wins, which sounds normal, but you could win with less than 50% of the vote. And this happens actually all the time. And what this causes is we get two major parties and slowly they move farther and farther apart. So if I want choices, there must be a better way to vote. And luckily there is. And it's been used around the US and it's taking off, and it's called ranked choice voting. So ranked choice voting is just a simple upgrade to the way we vote. So today, when you go to vote, you go to the ballot box and you pick a single candidate. So your ballot might look like this. You select the candidate you like. And with ranked choice voting, you rank your candidate. First choice, second choice, third choice, down the list, any order you like. It's really that simple. We already know how to rank everything. That's how it works. And it has lots of advantages. It guarantees that whoever wins gets supported by a majority of the voters. It eliminates the spoiler effect. So you could vote for who you want first. And if they don't win, okay, your vote might get transferred to your second choice. No more feeling like you're throwing away your vote. No more feeling like you're spoiling the election. And it gives us a lot more choices. So a lot more people could run, especially since there's not this spoiler effect. And there's lots of other benefits. Better representation, campaigns become a lot more civil, and can even save money. So what is the choice? We could just keep going like we're going and hope for the best, or we could upgrade the way we vote. We could change the system and we could have more choice, a less polarized system that we could all work with.
As the video discussed, our electoral system is how we choose the people that make decisions about every other issue that we face. Whatever it is that you care the most about, whether it's affordability or healthcare or housing, the economy, protecting our freedoms and our rights, immigration, all of these issues will be decided by our elected officials. So it's critically important that our elections actually give us a real meaningful choice in who represents us. But as the video talked about, our current system tends to consolidate around just two choices. It only really gives you two realistic choices that have a real chance of winning, and that's due to the way we vote. With our current voting system, we talk a lot about spoiler candidates. If we want to vote for a third party or an independent candidate, you'll often be told that your vote is spoiling the election if you try to vote outside just the top two choices. We'll get candidates winning with less than 50% of the vote, and that just comes down to the math of our current voting system. And of course, this isn't the democratic ideal. This voting system tends to incentivize toxic politics that we see. It tends to incentivize candidates to attack each other rather than work together. It does not have to be this way. Ranked choice voting is the leading solution to mitigate these problems. And it's already used in over 50 jurisdictions in the United States. Many people don't know that, including New York City, San Francisco, Minneapolis, Washington, D.C., and even two whole states, Alaska and Maine. It solves a lot of problems, particularly this problem of vote splitting or spoiling the election. Gives us a lot more than two choices, and it incentivizes candidates systematically to actually work together and strategize across campaigns rather than just tearing each other down. And it leads to more positive politics, which I think we can all agree is something that we could definitely use right now. There's a lot more to unpack here. The rabbit hole in ranked choice voting goes super deep with benefits You can check out fairvote.org if you're interested in reading some of the research behind the sort of deeper benefits and implications of ranked choice voting. Now, if you'll indulge me for one more video, I would like to take some time to ground us in some additional context as we move into our presentation.
No ranked choice voting.
Republican lawmakers introduced a bill that would ban the possibility of ranked choice voting in Wisconsin elections.
Missouri voters will decide in November whether to ban ranked choice voting.
New developments, Ohio bill that would effectively ban ranked choice voting.
A Republican-backed bill that seeks to repeal ranked choice voting here in Maine.
Quote, when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election in November.
4 more years, you know what? You won't have to vote anymore. During the war, you can't have elections. No more elections. Oh, that's good. I just want to find 11,780 votes.
FBI agents searched an elections office in Fulton County, Georgia.
Federal agents were seen entering the office outside of Atlanta this afternoon.
The Supreme Court appeared ready to weaken the Voting Rights Act by striking down a key provision meant to ensure equal representation for black voters.
Trump has said, if Congress doesn't pass universal voter ID and ban mail ballots, I want to do it anyway with an executive order.
Circulating a draft executive order that would unlock extraordinary presidential power over voting.
The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. The federal government should get involved.
Times have very much changed since Fairvote Illinois was founded in 2020. The questions of whether attacks on our democratic ideals and institutions could happen is no longer an if. Militarization of our streets and our public spaces and our institutions is already happening and has been happening for quite some time now, as many of you, I'm sure, know. And I share that video really to emphasize that there's a significant portion of our country, and even in our state, many people in our state, that do not believe that democracy is the system for our future, that consent of the governed is the way forward. And so embedded in this question of democratic innovation and ranked choice voting is the deeper question of whether Illinois will stand up and double down on the democratic ideals that the country was founded on, not only protect those ideals, but double down and expand on them, or whether we will give in to these forces that are acting in the country right now. So I want you to keep that question in mind as we go through our presentation here today. On that note, I want to jump in with an action item. House Republicans have introduced back in January the Make Elections Great Again Act, which, among other things, includes a provision that would ban ranked choice voting for federal general elections nationwide. This would obviously be a massive blow to grassroots pro-democracy innovation in the United States that has exploded in the last 20 years. So I would now like to take 3 minutes so that everyone on the call who's interested can scan this QR code and send a quick pre-written letter to your elected officials to oppose a ban on ranked choice voting. So we'll just take 3 minutes and then we'll come right back. All right, everybody finish up sending the letter and come on back. Thank you very much for taking the time to contact your elected officials and taking action on this issue. There's going to be a lot of opportunities on the call today to take actions to advance the ranked choice voting movement. So get ready. We're going to get a lot done in the next 45 minutes or so here together. But for now, let's continue on with our presentation. So many people don't know this, but fun fact, Barack Obama, when he was a state senator in Illinois back in 2002 in the Illinois General Assembly, introduced ranked choice voting legislation. He proposed bringing ranked choice voting to congressional primaries as well as local elections in Illinois. Maybe if we had listened to Obama, we would have had maybe a more interesting primary season last month. 15 years later, this discussion was revived by Daniel Biss, who just won his primary election last month in the 9th Illinois Congressional District and is also the mayor of Evanston. He introduced ranked choice voting legislation when he was a state senator that would have brought RCV to statewide offices in Illinois. In the years that followed, State Senator Laura Murphy and Representative Jaime Andrade, among many others, would continue to push in the Illinois General Assembly for upgrading statewide elections to RCV, as well as expanding the scope of that push, as we'll see on the next slide. And then if I can be so bold as to put our organization on the same slide as these great figures, in 2020, Fairvote Illinois was founded as the only major nonprofit organization in Illinois that is exclusively dedicated to advocating for ranked choice voting. In 2022, just 2 years after we were incorporated, Fair Vote Illinois successfully led a referendum campaign for ranked choice voting in Evanston, Illinois. This was the first referendum of its kind in Illinois' history. It passed with a resounding 82% of the vote, and this was really our first major legislative victory as an organization. Meanwhile, in Springfield, the discussion on ranked choice voting was expanding and evolving. Senator Murphy and Representative Maurice West continue to lead the discussion and advocate for the expansion of ranked choice voting. Particularly, they saw a lot of benefits for primary elections, and in particular, a state legislative task force was established to study RCV's particularly beneficial applications in presidential primary elections. In 2024, the Cook County Clerk's Office expressed administrative concerns in court about implementing Evanston's RCV referendum, and unfortunately, the initially planned implementation date came and went in early 2025. The Evanston question, as we call it, remains unanswered and uncertain to this day. So as we'll see on the next slide, that is ongoing, these debates. In Oak Park, a group of residents, organized by Fair Vote Illinois, gathered over 3,000 signatures to put another ranked choice voting referendum on the ballot, building on grassroots momentum. People wanted ranked choice voting. After we collected these signatures and put it on the ballot, it passed with 79% of voters voting yes to use RCV for their local elections. Shortly thereafter, State Senator Laura Murphy, always our champion for RCV in the Illinois General Assembly, introduced legislation to explicitly address these open questions raised by the Cook County Clerk, and we'll talk a little more on that later. We call this RCV local option legislation. In April 2025, just a few months after our Oak Park referendum, we worked with local residents in Skokie to gather over 2,400 signatures, and we were able to pass the third binding local ranked choice voting referendum in Illinois' history, with 58% of voters voting yes. So we're 3 for 3 so far. And that's where we currently stand on referendums. These referendums were really important for pushing the issue of ranked choice voting and being really clear that voters want this and that the discussion needs to be happening. So it created a sense of urgency. Finally, this year in 2026, Reform for Illinois and the city of Evanston has refiled previous litigation seeking to resolve the Cook County Clerk's aforementioned concerns. So that is ongoing. That's another pathway that they're exploring to see if we can resolve these concerns. I wanted to share this timeline with you because I want to demonstrate that people have been fighting for this in our state for a long time. It's been about 24 years since Barack Obama introduced the first RCV legislation in Illinois, and we've come a very long way. But even with these wins, as I said, there's a lot of questions unanswered. The question of legality for local option RCV, which is often the first step towards using RCV for larger elections. Local option has been very important in other states as a stepping stone to further elections like primaries. The question of local option RCV legality is still open. It's still pending. It hasn't been decided. Those debates are still ongoing. So with these open questions, where do we go from here? What's next? Introducing Fair Vote Illinois' brand new 2026 to 2032 organizational strategic plan for ranked choice voting. This strategic plan is the result of over 40 hours of work by the very same organizers who did the referendums that we just mentioned. There was so much rigorous research, debate, and very careful decision-making working outward from the current political environment in Illinois, while also taking into consideration the history of past efforts to bring RCV to Illinois that we mentioned, and how we might improve upon that strategy to make a really renewed and responsible push to upgrade Illinois' democracy to ranked choice voting. So before we hop into specifics of the strategic plan, I want to take a moment to just thank the incredible strategic planning committee that, as I said, met for over 30 hours of Zoom calls and then poured many more hours of work into research as well as interviewing many sources, both in Illinois politics and in the advocacy space, all to put together this plan. So I would like to thank the many people who provided feedback in this process as well. Your thoughts and ideas in these interviews and surveys were really important to shaping how the plan came out. And we were constantly referring back to these insights and synthesizing those ideas into the frameworks we were coming up with as we proceeded through the process. Huge thanks to the strategic planning team, as well as to everyone who submitted input on this process. All right, let's jump into the specifics. The most important near-term task for us will be RCV local option legislation. As I said, Evanston, Oak Park, and Skokie voted to adopt this system, and we've received many more requests from local residents in different communities that want to organize to collect signatures and put RCV referendums on their local ballots. However, we have decided that in order to do this responsibly, we have to assist with the passage of RCV local option legislation before we move forward with any further local referendum campaigns. That will provide clarity to local clerks on how to implement ranked choice voting. We want to make sure that we're doing this responsibly and that we're being a working partner in this. And as I said earlier, RCV local option legislation, very often in other parts of the country, it has been the first step towards using ranked choice voting for other larger elections. This is a really important step, and it's proven to be in other states as well. So in order to support the passage of this legislation, we're revamping and revitalizing our organization to really optimize towards this goal. So we're expanding our organization's policy team so that we can develop even stronger in-house expertise on RCV policy. We're also recruiting new board talent to strengthen our decision-making, and we'll continue building our capacity to provide support to implementing clerks and elected officials at all levels of government to ensure that RCV is not only is it being implemented, but it's being implemented responsibly and carefully. Illinois deserves a world-class democracy with the best cutting-edge systems for capturing the consent of the governed, and Fair Vote Illinois is aiming to be a thoughtful and considerate, careful working partner in the movement towards that goal. And on that note, I'm happy to announce that as part of our Phase 1 strategic planning operations, we are raising money to expand our governmental relations operations to provide more consistent expert support on RCV to elected officials. We've already identified professionals that are willing to help us in that regard, but this is going to be a really critical step to ensure that we can provide the level of support that we need to as Illinois continues to work towards this new system. Concurrent with all phases of this strategic plan, we plan to continue to be a leader in the RCV education space statewide to really pave the way for future referendums, ensure that voters understand not only how RCV works, but also why it's so valuable to rank all the candidates on your ballot. This is critically important because we want to ensure that once RCV is in place, voters are actually using the new system to the fullest extent of its power. Voters themselves are exercising the fullest extent of their newfound power at the ballot box by being able to rank their choices. In just the last 3 years or so, we have reached about 280,000 Illinoisans through paid social media advertising at an ad spend of just about $7,400. So you can do the math on that ROI. We have found social media to be a really incredible way to reach voters where they are. So we're creating these like short, snappy, entertaining videos that educate voters on this, what we think is the voting system of the future, in order to ensure that this is passed equitably in a way that doesn't feel like it's leaving voters behind. We want people to know about this, to understand it, and actually to be really excited to use it as this new voting technology that's innovative and gives them more power. Today, we are setting a goal to quadruple our reach to 1.12 million Illinoisans by 2029. We're fundraising to make that happen. We believe that this is going to require a massive voter education push, especially in the city of Chicago, which is an incredibly large city of 2.6 million people. So we're setting a goal here because, again, we don't want to leave people behind. We want people to know about RCV and to feel confident that they understand it and that they want to use it. This will also, of course, help us to educate voters in places that have already adopted RCV as we start to move towards first implementations, making sure that those voters understand RCV and use it to the fullest extent of its ability. So once we get local option legislation, so that's phase 1, and these open questions are resolved, Fair Vote Illinois is also aiming to be a leading partner in ensuring that RCV is implemented according to established best practices for ranked choice voting. So we aim to recruit and train implementation specialists to assist not only with governmental adoption of RCV, but also organizational adoption of RCV in any organization that would like to use the system for better elections. So one of the key through lines that I want to leave you with in this presentation is that we want to be very careful and thoughtful working partners in the adoption of RCV. We want to support implementing clerks. We want to provide educational support, and we want to be a resource in this innovative voting system so that everyone is understanding it and that it gets implemented smoothly. We want to continue building meaningful working relationships. We've already been doing a lot of that work with people who are tasked with implementing RCV. We want to ease their concerns. We want to answer any questions. We want to smoothen its adoption and make sure that everything goes well. And again, this is all building on best practices that have already been established elsewhere in the country, in the states and many cities that have adopted ranked choice voting. So that's phase one and phase two. The culmination of all of this hard work is phase three, ranked choice voting for Chicago. RCV for Chicago is our ultimate winning aspiration through 2032. We think that this would be a game changer that would put Illinois on the map as being at the forefront of democratic innovation in the United States. And we have already been building towards this campaign for years now, but we're setting our goal today to make it a reality. As our primary winning aspiration, in order to achieve this, we'll be expanding our governmental relations efforts to work with partners in Chicago City Council to place a binding ranked choice voting referendum on the ballot no later than March 2030 for the primary. That's the latest we could do this. Obviously, we could do it earlier. The first implementation would be for the 2031 mayoral, city council, and city clerk elections. So we have our 2027 elections coming up. We want to obviously leverage that for messaging, as it always is. It's going to draw a lot of candidates, and it's going to make a great example of why ranked choice voting would be so particularly helpful in the city of Chicago. And so on that point, why did we choose to focus on Chicago so much is one question you may have. Why is RCV so particularly useful when applied to specifically Chicago mayoral elections? For one thing, RCV would save tens of millions of dollars in the city of Chicago. It would save money for the city, for campaign funders, for candidates, and it would save a lot of time, obviously, for voters by avoiding the need for a runoff election. So in Chicago, we currently are making voters go out to the polls twice, which almost always happens because if there's no candidate that gets more than 50% of the vote in the first round of municipal election voting, we make voters come back out and do a second round of voting. We call that a runoff election. This runoff election costs a lot of money. You have to spend in election administration costs over $20 million. There's a lot that we could do with an additional $20-25 million in the city of Chicago. The city has to pay poll workers. Candidates have to spend millions on yet another get out the vote campaign. For funders of campaigns, this is really just not a good usage of money. If we can just streamline that into one election with ranked choice voting that doesn't require runoffs, it'll save a lot of money for everyone, including campaign funders, voters, and candidates. Ranked choice voting is often called instant runoff voting for this feature. And of course, last time we had a mayoral election, it drew, I want to say, 8 or 10 candidates. So it would be a lot better to be able to rank those choices rather than having to pick just one. As I said, Fair Vote Illinois has already been hard at work for years on this. We've compiled a list of official supporters. In other words, these are city council members and organizations that have explicitly told us that they're supportive of RCV for Chicago, and they're okay with us publicizing that on our website. So that list is currently up to 16 out of 50 members of the Chicago City Council. Our internal data suggests that 24 alders are confirmed supportive at this time. There are obviously many more whose position is still unknown, so we just haven't been able to confirm their position on this. They haven't made any public statements on it. We've also confirmed support from 24 community organizations, and that list is continuing to grow. By 2029, our goal is to confirm support from 36 out of 50 alderpersons. That would ensure that RCV can sail through city council without issue. So, of course, we're aiming high here. You shoot for the moon, you land among the stars, as they say. If you or someone you know is a community leader or elected official in Chicago, or if you're representing an organization in Chicago, you can consider signing on to RCV for Chicago. This QR code here will actually allow you to sign on to 3 related things all at once. So it'll allow you to sign on to our community letter to the Illinois General Assembly calling for RCV local option legislation, which is, as I said, the first step to support implementation in Chicago. It'll allow you to sign on to being listed as just a general supporter of RCV on our website. And of course, the final question will be you can sign on as a supporter of RCV for Chicago specifically, and you would appear then on this webpage here to the left in this list. So I'll just pause for a second here if people want to go ahead and scan that. I think we can have someone drop it in the chat.
Yep, it's in the chat and pinned to the top.
Perfect. Yep, that's a good question, Michael. We're currently working on a strategy to poll the mayoral candidates and confirm which ones are in support. RCV has traditionally been a very popular issue in Chicago. In our last mayoral election, Paul Vallis and Brandon Johnson indicated that they were supportive. Let's go ahead and bring it back. A key point, Chicago starts now. So although I've listed RCV for Chicago here as phase 3 of our strategic plan, it's really important that we're educating voters consistently. So we've been doing that already for quite a while, many years now. And as I said, we aim to dramatically expand these efforts in the coming years. And we'll talk a bit more in a second about how you can get involved as a volunteer with Fair Vote Illinois as we're transitioning into our action items portion of the call here today to help out as we expand in Chicago. Quick summary, phase 1, we want to support the passage of RCV local option legislation. That's really important. As I said, it's a first step. It's a critical stepping stone, establishing RCV in state law and getting some initial implementations of RCV that go very well and that Fair Vote Illinois is supporting to make sure that they go well. That gives local clerks the experience of running an RCV election to ensure that if we scale this up to larger elections, they've already got some experience of the technicalities, the back end work of actually running an RCV election. For phase 3, obviously, once we've got some first implementations, we've got RCV local option, we want to pass and implement RCV for Chicago. After phase 3, options are very open. We want to see ranked choice voting for primaries and other elections where it makes sense to use this innovative voting system. This is presented as a timeline here, but as I said, this strategic plan builds out from the current political situation, so things can shift. Obviously, political wills can shift, so we're happy to support RCV wherever we can get it. We think that this will be the most careful and responsible way working out from our current understanding of the political situation to implement RCV. If you like this strategic plan, if you believe that American democracy can be better than it is right now, and that Illinois can lead the way on democratic innovation, this is your chance to make that happen. We have a couple different options based on the different activities that we talked about on the call today. Our primary fund is for voter education and outreach, as well as our general operating budget, so most of our staff. Donating in this bucket on the left, this is a tax-deductible donation for Fair Vote Illinois' education and outreach side of our work. This is the primary bucket that we accept donations in. If you'd like to support us in general, this is the main way to do so. If you would like to support specifically our legislative action effort in the Illinois General Assembly, as well as our future ballot referendum campaigns, the bucket on the right is the way to go. This bucket is often more flexible in terms of what we can spend the money on, but donations in this bucket are not tax deductible. So they're for these more specific purposes and they're not tax deductible. If you would like to donate to Fair Vote Illinois by check or investment account, our email is here on the screen. You can send us a quick message and we'll send over further instructions on how to do that. By donating to this organization, you're affirming your support for ranked choice voting, but you're also actually making that happen. This is extremely important for ensuring that we can actually execute the strategic plan. So if you like the strategic plan and you're interested in supporting us, please scan these links and we appreciate any support that you're able to provide. I see some really good conversations happening in chat here. Statewide and federal adoption of RCV is the ultimate goal for our organization. And as I said, this strategic plan, we're working out from our current understanding and the current facts of where we're at and what we can get done responsibly. Federal and statewide elections are certainly on the roadmap. We're currently placing them further down the line, but the situation can change. Another action item, we're currently seeking new board talent. So if you or anyone you know is a professional in the nonprofit, law, governmental affairs, policy, accounting, fundraising, or political advocacy, campaigning, or related fields, please scan this QR code, and we're seeking new board talent to help guide the organization and drive these efforts. So if you have thoughts on this strategic plan, if you have a professional background related in this work, we encourage you to reach out. The instructions on how to apply there are also in that link, as well as the information of how our board works. This is an opportunity to sit in the driver's seat of Fair Vote Illinois and influence the decisions that get made. I will pass it over to our statewide organizer, Ben Nagy, for an overview of some of our volunteer options at Fairwood, Illinois.
Thank you, Dan. As you all probably can appreciate, we have a very ambitious plan, and an ambitious plan cannot be executed without volunteers like yourselves. So there are a lot of crucial opportunities that we could use your help with. Largely, we are trying to spread the message. We are trying to get it out there, getting people aware of it, because first of all, many people aren't aware of ranked choice voting. We want them to be able to understand it, get comfortable with it, and then ultimately get excited about it. So the first thing you could do if you don't have any time for volunteering is get excited about ranked choice voting and share your excitement with the people immediately around you. Friends, family, colleagues, your religious organizations, bowling clubs, that kind of thing. So just where you are, spread excitement for ranked choice voting, get people interested in it. If you want to go a bit farther, we have plenty of volunteer opportunities. Dan is putting some QR codes on the screen for options if you want something that's more tailored. You can schedule an appointment with me one-on-one, and we can talk about what you're interested in and what would be a good fit. Completing our volunteer interest form on the website would be fantastic because you can indicate there what you're interested in. And then we also have a bi-weekly volunteer orientation session that we run. It's a group format. It gives you an overview of things, and we can also figure out where you want to plug in. Some of the important volunteer opportunities to think about. Number one, we need people who are willing to speak to organizations and important people, groups, community organizations, that kind of thing. It's super important for us to be able to educate and spread this excitement, and that's something really key that a presenter can do. So this is something that we will give you a short training for. You will be equipped and feel comfortable to do this. But then what you'll do is when we have opportunities, you can be going there and be the one giving the presentation. So this is really key because getting groups, organizations buy-in on this is so key to success. It has been the key to success in our previous successes in municipal campaigns in Evanston, Oak Park, and Skokie. If you are someone who can help us make the bridge between those organizations, get them interested, educated, and excited about ranked choice voting, and then hopefully they would want to partner with us, be in coalition with us, help drive this thing forward. That's the best case scenario. So people who want to be speakers or who already like public speaking, and that's how you want to contribute, that's a huge way to contribute. Another thing that you can do, our bread and butter, is going out to things like farmers markets, going to places like polling places where we can talk to people on the street, where people can be curious, they can see our peacock colors we're showing to get interested in ranked choice voting and explain it. Hopefully they'll be interested in supporting us or joining us in some form. But just talking to folks on the ground, being able to see in their eyes like that moment where it clicks for them, where they understand what ranked choice voting can do, how they can see improvement in the world. If that's something you want to do, canvassing might be a good fit for you. We need lots of canvassers, people who want to even just train people to show them how to canvass. And these things are all really good skills, presenting, canvassing. They teach you how to talk to people. They make you really strong, and that's something that's going to be good in every aspect of your life. That said, we need plenty of work on the back end too. We need people who are willing to help with arts and graphics. If you like doing website stuff, with software devs, we could use your help with that. Social media. If you want to help with social media, producing content, editing content, if you have ideas, if you want to be in it, could use help with that kind of thing too. If you want to do policy, if you feel like a policy nerd, we need lots of help there. Messaging, marketing, all this kind of stuff. If you want to be a fundraiser, if you want to plan events, we have a lot of cool event opportunities you could plan. Things like rank your pizza events, rank your beer events, rank your donut, rank your cookie, rank your cupcake. The list goes on and on. If that's something you want to help put together, we can help you put that together. We just need somebody who wants to get this thing started. Lots of opportunities out there. I hope you guys are getting excited about it. We had over 110 people on this call when we were at our peak. That's a lot of people who are interested in it. That's something we could use to actually drive this thing forward and actually succeed and see ranked choice voting in practice. We can get this thing done. We have a plan to do it. I hope you'll join. Feel free to keep an eye on our events page, sign up for our events. If you want to volunteer and contribute, we could really use your help, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Ben. Our events page on our website is, as Ben mentioned, a great place to keep up to date with some of our social events. I'll also just put a quick reminder here. Here's our social media pages. Please share our content as far as wide as you can. We want to make sure people know about ranked choice voting. Social media is a fantastic way to do that. Please feel free to follow us on your favorite platform.
One thing I forgot to mention, another way you can contribute, if you are part of an organization or somebody in an organization, if you're connected to an organization who you think might want a ranked choice voting presentation, that's another way to help. Connect with us, connect with me, because that's how we form this network. That's how we can get this thing done. Forgot to add that. Thank you, Dan, for letting me stick that.
Absolutely. We train speakers to go out and speak at organizations. That's a huge part of our theory of change. Thanks for throwing that in. All right. So we're going to stay on for a little bit here to answer some questions.
Thanks. I was just curious because I've heard, and you guys all said stuff about it with regards to where things are at with the state legislature. Could you give us like a cliff notes of where it actually stands? I know that there was something about it being believed, or the case was made that it was against the Illinois Constitution to have ranked choice voting. What is that argument that's made against it, and where's the process stand for trying to get that overturned, etc.?
Yeah, we could probably do a whole other presentation about the different arguments for it. The Illinois state constitution gives very broad authority to home rule municipalities like Evanston to decide how they elect their officers. It explicitly mentions that in the Constitution. So we believe that ranked choice voting is already legal on the basis of our Constitution. Many people in our network see it as a constitutional rights issue, actually, that Evanston should be able to implement ranked choice voting without having to go through the Illinois General Assembly. That case is currently being litigated by another organization, but essentially there's certain provisions in the election code that are a little difficult to translate to RCV. That's the argument that's being made, is that our election code was written for single choice elections. So the language doesn't quite jive with RCV. We expect that the litigation on this could take a long time. And so we want to make sure that Evanston can implement ranked choice voting in a timely manner, as well as Oak Park and Skokie. In the Illinois General Assembly, we have heard that it will very likely take into next year to work out these details. This seems like a pretty simple issue, and in some ways it is. There are these legislative complications that come along down the line. We expect that it will take into next year. We really would love to see it next year at the least. Ideally, it would be fantastic if we could do it this year, but we expect to make a big push for it next year and to be very prepared to support that.
All right, Michael, you're on the air.
Hi, my name is Michael, community activist in Northwest Indiana. I live in Linwood, Illinois. My question is geared towards the IL9 primary. So what are you guys doing as far as like how are you guys pushing this to legislators, and then how is that kind of all working? And are we using some of the arguments of how this past election went?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this last primary election is, I think, a lot of the reason that people are joining on the call here today, because it was such a fantastic example of how ranked choice voting would have made a lot of sense for voters when you have elections that have 10 candidates in them and you only get to pick one candidate. In terms of how we're communicating to elected officials, we are currently continuing to build up our capacity. I myself individually have been traveling to Springfield for the last 2 months pretty regularly to talk with elected officials and their staff to help to provide some support on this issue. This year, we really want to build up capacity to really do that very well, especially next year. As these conversations progress, we want to have that expertise in-house. So that's something that we're fundraising a lot for. We really want to be a supportive partner legislators, but we have been in regular communication with a number of legislators.
With regard to the current legislation that's active, with regard to the local options, the RVC local options or RCV local options, you said that is currently active in the legislature. Is it a House and Senate thing? Is one more active than the other? And how far into the committee process has it gotten?
Yeah, that's a good question. Traditionally, the state Senate has led pretty strong on ranked choice voting. The current bill that you'll find on ilga.gov is SB 2004. That particular piece of legislation, so that actual item, is technically not active. There are methods where the legislators can still introduce new legislation that has the exact same language. SB 2004 should give a good sense of kind of what we're looking for. And I think you asked about the RCV task force as well. So there's presidential primaries task force. That's wrapping up right now. We expect a report to come from that task force very soon with more of an outline of kind of implementation questions and concerns that we can then use as a template to answer those questions and concerns. And that's why we expect it to take a little bit more into next year. We'll look at the report, we'll support legislators in that. I could say, having just gone down there, there's a good amount of energy around.
Great.
Hey there. Thank you so much for working on and sharing this long-term plan. I'm definitely interested in volunteering, and I'm curious about shorter-term goals. For example, what are a few targets that you're hoping to see achieved in, let's say, the next 6 weeks that would give you a clear sign that things were on track?
We're currently doing a lot of internal work behind the scenes. So in the next 6 weeks, couple of months here, we're continuing to interview professionals in the governmental affairs space and the policy space. We're actually building out our teams right now. That's been going on for a minute here, and we're continuing to do that through this year. So in terms of short-term goals, we're really upgrading Fair Vote Illinois into a better vehicle for supporting legislators in passing RCV and resolving some of these concerns and questions that, for example, the Cook County clerk raised. We want to support clerks and organizations that are implementing RCV. So I would say that keeping that on track, for us, that's a big part of the short-term goal, as well as leveraging these recent primaries in our messaging. We've been doing a lot of social media content creation around how these primaries would have benefited a lot from ranked choice voting. So those are, I would say, where we're focused right now. And I'm glad you're interested in volunteering.
Andrew said, oh, it just popped off my screen. Here it is. Joining from Champaign-Urbana in Central Illinois, excited about the plan for Chicago, but disappointed that statewide isn't on the roadmap for federal congressional elections. Is this in the works? Given the roadmap is projecting 6 years as the time to start organizing for federal elections today. Can you speak to why we're not focused on the statewide yet? And like we said, things could change, but just if you can speak to that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When we went through the strategic plan, we considered a lot of details that really guided our decision making. For example, in Chicago is a city of 2.6 million people, right? And we want to make sure that we're focused on having a really strong implementation in Chicago, which in and of itself is an extremely ambitious goal. Chicago is the size of a country, a small country. But in terms of federal elections, is it the time to start organizing for it now? Absolutely. We want to be educating people about ranked choice voting so that when that day does come, A, that day comes a lot faster, and B, we want people to understand it and be able to know how to use it and to use it to the most of its ability.
One of the earlier questions about why are we waiting so long, or why are we being so cautious in starting local versus taking on the congressional seats right away? All I can say is, in the amount of research that I've done on basically the political industry, this battle that we are undertaking is going to be a tough one to win. And incremental change is really the only way, basically, to eat that elephant. It's one bite at a time. And this is for people truly waking up and becoming impatient. Patience. This could take 10 years. Having just gone through getting medical aid and dying legislation passed in Illinois, that was a 10-year constant, one step at a time in order to accomplish that in 2025. And that was just a controversial topic. It wasn't the livelihood of an entire industry that is nationwide. Just get your Pepto-Bismol supply ready and let's march forward.
Thank you, Rachel.
Please feel free to share the recording for this presentation with your friends, share on social media. As Rachel said, this is a long process. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into getting something like this passed. When I say we want to be careful, we also want to be realistic. We don't want to make false promises about what we can achieve. And within this time frame, we're really confident that this strategic plan represents what we can achieve looking out from the current political moment. So as I said, that can change. As we know, politics changes very quickly. It takes tenacity, it takes time. We very much appreciate your support and thank everyone for coming out to our statewide meeting today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to use the contact form on our website.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your support. We hope to see you out there.